Okay, hello students. You are welcome to this particular class. Today, our class is going to be on something very interesting. We are going to be looking at an extension of what we looked at in the last class. In the last class, we looked at data types. We were able to see them, how to use the type command to understand them. But this time around, we'll be looking at something that is very useful as we proceed in our journey in programming. This is called assignment and comparison. Assignment and comparison. We're going to be differentiating what is assignment and what is comparison. Assignment and comparison. We are going to be comparing the two in programming and understanding what they mean as we go ahead. So let's keep this on one side and then we'll decide to explain scenarios that involve them. For example, imagine you wanted to ask this question in programming, and the question goes like this: is A equal to B? Yes, A is equal to B. How would you ask that question with code? This is where assignment and comparison comes from. Now, if you notice very well, you will see that both questions seem to relate to an equal sign. For example, the first question is A equal to B. That's an interesting one. The second question is A equals to B. Now, if this was programming, the system would not be able to differentiate between the first line of code and the second line because it's the same to the system. A equals B, A equals B. So how do we differentiate between one thing and another thing? This is what is important in programming. For example, if I plug this A equals to B into programming, it will mean nothing to it. I'm simply saying A equals to B. As long as B has a prior meaning, then it knows what to do. It doesn't tell us is A equal to B, or affirming a statement, yes, A equals to B. So these are the questions we are trying to answer. Is A equal to B? Yes, A is equal to B. How do we answer that question? Now, this understanding is what will now help us move to the next step in our interaction. And the next step will state clearly that, let's assume you just have equal signs, only equal signs. Could we do something with the equal signs to tell us something about them? And what more can we talk about doing that? And before we proceed, we will focus on assignment first, before we move to comparison, before we then join the two. So let's focus now on assignment. Assignment. So the question is, what is assignment? That's the question. What is assignment? That's our question for the day. What is assignment? If you look at this very well, I can break it down for you. Assignment is when a word or a data type is given as the value content of a variable. That is what it is. Assignment is when the data type, a particular data type, is given as the value of a variable. Assignment is when a data type is given as the value of a variable. Can you imagine that? Isn't that interesting? That is the definition of what we call assignment. Assignment is when a data type is given as the value of a variable. Now, there is one step in programming that is actually two steps, but you can do it so easily without knowing the consequences of this. Now, I know you may ask, what is a variable? You already know what a data type is. You might ask, what is a variable? Okay, now let us explain that. A variable is a memory space, space in the computer that is created. A variable is a memory space in the computer that is created once a value is assigned to it. That gives us a very interesting perspective on what we would call a variable, because now it means that the variable both comes into existence and receives its content at the same time. Okay, because without the content of a variable being given, the system, the computer, would not assign a memory space to that variable. Let's try something interesting. Let's say we write this. We write inside your computer S equals 3. This looks like a very simple code, doesn't it? It's straightforward. It doesn't have any complications. It's very, very ordinary. S equals 3. But the question is, when you type S equals 3 in your computer and you go to the next line, two things happen at the same time. Two things happen at the same time. Number one, the first thing that happens is S gets assigned. Your S gets assigned into the computer, but it is empty and it cannot continue to remain existing. So your computer looks for a value because that value is necessary to give it existence. So instantly a value is also given. That value determines the size of the memory space that is assigned. When you get to advanced programming and advanced web development, you will begin to work with memory spaces in which we have predefined their sizes, whereby you say, okay, this memory space must only take 200 characters. And if anybody gives anything more than that, the memory space will not accept it. Is that clear? That's the beauty of assignment, rather. Now, if you look at it very well, as we work with this, we realize that this is assignment. So if I say S equals to 3, it means the number 3 has been assigned as the value of the variable s. That's the meaning. S equals 3 simply means the number 3 has been assigned as the value of the variable s. Isn't that fantastic? It's a very straightforward thing we write every day, but this is exactly what it means. S equals 3, the number 3 has been assigned as the value of variable s. Alright, this is a critical breakdown, and I believe you are following. Okay, now we're going to move ahead to work something interesting. This is assignment. How does assignment now differ from comparison? Or in reality, what is comparison at all? This is a very, very interesting question. What is comparison at all? Okay, now there's a difference between the syntax used for assignment and the syntax used for comparison, and I will show you the difference now. The syntax used for comparison, anyway, let's first take our notes. What is comparison? I like to write that on the board before I proceed. What is comparison? All right. Comparison now is the second aspect of our screen. I don't know if we remember our question here, which was A equals B, right? Is A equals B? Yes, A equals B. Now, yes, A equals B has been answered. Is that clear? We are now moving to the one on top. And the one that can answer that is comparison. Is A equal to B? All right. Now that we've been reminded of where we are coming from, let's proceed back to our much more detailed enterprise. Okay. Now, S equals to, what is comparison? Comparison makes an assumption. It assumes that before you compare two things, at least one of them must have been assigned a value. Comparison assumes one thing, that before you compare two things, one of those two things must have been assigned a value. Isn't that beautiful? Why? Because you can't be comparing two things that are empty, so it assumes. Now, how does it assume? The way it assumes comes from the failure of assignment. Now remember, every time I teach you the right way to write a code, I would also teach you the wrong way to write that code. And a very good example is, if S equals 3 means the number 3 has been assigned as the value of variable S, what does 3 equals S mean. Isn't that crazy? Remember, S equals 3 means the number 3 has been assigned as the value of the variable S. Okay, so what does 3 equals S mean? This is where the beauty comes in. 3 equals S is a failure, and it cannot work in code because the Python compiler would not understand how you want to assign a non-existent variable to a data type. So let us try it. We are going to go to our coder now, to our compiler. Let's use our code editor. Okay. All right, here we are. Although I would have preferred the Code Studio, let's use the Code Studio. We can use any one we like. All right. Now, here, we are going to start with S equals 3. Oh, lovely. S equals 3. Now, nice. Okay, we can run code. It runs. S equals 3. And then what do we have? Okay, so it's beautiful. This is for simpler, much more simplified codes. So let's go use the code editor directly then. Okay, so here S equals 3. We run the code. It executes. It doesn't have it's not a big deal. Everything is fantastic because S equals 3 is a good code. I think the network's a bit slow today. That is why my editors are taking time to come in and do their jobs. Okay, so that should be done in a minute or in a second. Okay. S equals 3. It's taking longer than usual. That is a code that should have run. Oh, we're executing a second time. That is not a good sign for the network. Okay. Let us try that again. S equals 3. And then we run. Okay, we're still experiencing the delay. Alright, so in order not to delay our class, we'll go back, continue our class, and then we'll come back to testing this. Okay, so now, the reason why 3 equals S will not work is because the system cannot assign a variable to a data type, because a data type cannot represent a memory space. And this brings us to one of the major rules of creating variable names. How many of you think you can just write anything as a variable name? Alaka equals 3, Patu equals 3, you know, like that. Plaka equals 4, Mamata equals 5. But there are times when you write some things the system will not accept. For example, now if I say 4 magma equals 4, the system will not accept it because you cannot start a variable name with a number. It is going to cause some fault in your code. Is that clear? You cannot start a variable name with a number. I was checking on our editor there. Since the network is practically weak today. Is that clear? Okay. So this is what works. You can write something like Mama 4 or Mama 4 equals 4. That will be accepted by the system because it already knows you started with words, so it's a variable name. But you cannot start with a number. These are one of the rules of creating variable names. So you can't just write whatever comes to your mind as a variable name. So this brings us back to comparison and the assumptions of comparison, which states clearly, as I state, that whatever you want to do, when you compare A and B, and first of all, let's talk about the syntax. So in code, the difference between assignment and comparison is assignment is a single equal sign, comparison is a double equal sign. Also, assignment cannot be done backwards, but comparison can be done backwards, which means that even though in assignment 3 cannot be equals to S, in comparison 3 can be compared to A. Is that clear? Okay, so that's the difference between assignment and comparison. It's beautiful, isn't it? So if I wanted to compare A and 3, I simply write A with 2 equal signs. If A does not exist, the system will tell me A does not exist. Even if I do 3 equals A, it will tell me A does not exist. But if before all this, I already assigned a value to A, like A equals 5, then both cases of A equals 3 and 3 equals A will give us false as their answers. False in this case, remember, capital F for Python, false, and in this case also false. But if I say 5 equals A, then the result will give me true. Is that clear? And this is the difference between assignment and comparison. So I'm going to give a classwork now. You are going to generate 5 variables and give them data types as their values, each of them a different data type as their values, and then you are going to create another 5, give them data types also, and compare each one, the first to the first, the second to the second, the third to the third, the fourth to the fourth, and see the outcome. Then next, you will now get the data type of each of them and compare their data types to one another and also see the outcome. That is your assignment. First one, direct comparison of the variables. Second one, comparison of the data types of those variables. And let's see if that will give us the same outcomes. Would the one that gives us true in one place be true in the other place, or be false in one place be always false in the other place? That is what we want to check. All right. It's lovely being with you. Have a nice time. Those are the truths of assignment and comparison.